Zidane Danny, Electro Ninja here, and welcome back to Electro Ninja's Lab. Sorry about the weird opening, but I do have to say, before this video begins, this video has spoilers for all of the manga up to volume 23, and probably a little bit for volume 24. Um, However, I haven't actually seen that yet, and the same goes for 25, so I don't really know. Maybe it's going to end up being spoilers, but primarily, let's just say right now, this is going to be spoilers up to volume 25 of the manga for My Hero Academia. So if the uh, thumbnail wasn't completely obvious, as well as the post that should be over on my Twitter coming out at the exact same time as this video, then yeah, this video is going to be talking about the other quirks for One for All, and aka Deku's quirk and All Might's quirk. Now, the reason that I want to actually make a video about this whole process is because of the fact that this is an insane thing. There is a lot of stuff that's going to be happening soon. For those of you who aren't completely aware, at a good midpoint of volume 21, after they conclude the story of Todoroki and his father kind of making amends, which honestly, that's such a great arc, and I'm really happy that I really hope that they actually conclude with that this season, because holy crap, the new arc is. This arc is really long and really insane, and I really hope that they actually start the season with this, not, oh, he is now the #1 hero and stuff. Yeah, it's kind of a good filler, but it's not the best. That's the point I'm trying to make. For those, so yeah, about halfway, oh, actually a bit more. I thought it was less. So, a little bit more than halfway, a little bit less than halfway through the actual volume of volume 21, Deku has a dream where he sees all basically all of the other heroes who have gone before him with All for One, or One for All, I mean, including seeing the fight between uh, All for One and his brother, who is the owner of One for All. Now, they actually do a really good job of actually showing all of the people who have used this power. While it's kind of hard to see them all, you can kind of get a good idea of who they are. First off, these two, I'm not 100% certain on who they could be, but that's because of the fact that they're hidden in shadows. They do explain that this guy, who is the last one before them, is All Might, and these two we still haven't met. Obviously, Nana Shimura and the guy that got introduced in the latest volume, the fifth user of All for One. Or One for All, I mean. Sorry, I keep freaking saying that. The point is that a lot of people gained powers and stuff, and his dream got intense, so much to the point that it's time for him to actually use the rest of the powers. Deku then wakes up to his room being in shambles, and Aoyama is actually there to help him out a bit. This is the most important scene in this volume. 23 is the actual one that they actually go in depth with all of this stuff, as the rest of volume 20 begins a new arc that is kind of a hard thing to really explain, but it's basically the battle arc to bring Shinso into Class 1A or Class B. And that's pretty major. So this is the last scene that we get to see of what kind of powers Deku might have. If you actually look closely, you can kind of get a few guesses at what maybe his powers are, but it's still unclear. Now, and that's actually a very important thing to actually keep in mind here. In Volume 23, they reveal that Deku has 6 other quirks that are stuck within him. For those of you who are unaware, Nanashimura is the 7th user of One for All. And that leads me to believe that yes, they are going to still be going with the idea that All Might is still quirkless. I don't think that he is, but that's beside the point, and the same thing goes for Deku. Deku is quirkless, quote unquote. Those are theories for other days, but primarily, we still believe this. Now, understandably, we can actually at least try to pinpoint what the other 6 quirks are, based off the very little information that we have. First off, we're going to focus on the first quirk, the quirk of the first quirk that Deku gains besides the super strength. The super strength is actually just enhanced normal abilities that have been passed on throughout the entire time, and it's basically just been improving over time, and that is kind of we're going to say that is kind of the quirk of the very first user of One for All, aka the guy who didn't really have quirks, the brother of All for One. We're going to say that that's the case. We could say that perhaps that's actually All Might's quirk, but it's a bit unlikely. Next, we can, like I said, we know that the 5th user had the Black Whips. I believe that is the exact name that he calls them. Let me just actually read the exact wording that they use. Black Whip, yep. Black Whip. This is a capture type quirk. A quirk that is really good for catching people. Basically, Deku or the original guy, user number 6 or 5. I always forget what his name is. That's not the point. The bald guy. The point is that his quirk is Black Whips. Is Black Whip, which can capture things really easily. Probably can do a few other things as well, but that is its primary purpose. And is enhanced by anger. I would like to say that most likely there is some things that the emotions of these quirks are tied to certain emotions. However, I don't want to necessarily go down that path, as it could be kind of a weird situation. If Deku has to be angry to use Black Whip, and, I don't know, sad to use one of the other quirks, then that could be pretty bad. But that's the first of the 6 quirks. The next quirk that we can actually pinpoint is Nanashimura. As we know that Nanashimura is the grandmother to Shigaraki, we can reasonably assume that her quirk has something to do with his quirk. His quirk, if I don't know why anyone wouldn't know this who's watching this video, Shigaraki's quirk is the ability to disintegrate anything he touches. Which, honestly, that is a terrifying quirk, and I really hope that they don't actually go that route with giving Deku that quirk. But the reason that it's unlikely that that is actually the quirk is because of the fact that his quirk is a mutation. Kind of like how Aries' quirk is also a mutation. It's actually possible that Aries' parents are actually probably had some different quirks. Basically, one quirk might have been to heal, and the other quirk is stopping time. Maybe you may not be able to, you wouldn't actually be able to move during this, but you are able to you're able to see everything. You can stop time for a second, and nobody else realizes it, but you can take the time to observe the entire area around you, restart time, and deal with the rest of it. It would honestly be a really cool thing to actually think about. That's probably what Aries quirks are. The ability to heal, and that combined together to make a mutated quirk, which is reversing time for someone, basically either killing them or taking away their quirk. Or in the future case for Mirio, it could also be something that can restore a quirk. The exact details aren't completely clear, but it does make some sense. Now, like I said, Shigaraki's quirk is the ability for anyone he touches with all 5 fingers. They explicitly state that if he touches something with all 5 fingers, it will destroy something. One of the reasons why he holds Deku by the neck, holding every single finger to his neck except for his middle finger. And I'm not flipping any of you off, it's just the way that he does it in the frickin' in the scene. Then, if he actually does touch you with all 5 fingers, congratulations, you're dead. Or you're gonna have to lose whatever he touched. Obviously, there are certain differences, but that's primarily the thing that we have to worry about. But I don't think that Nana Shimura's quirk is that. Primarily because of the fact that that has been stated to be a mutated quirk. This is actually directly explained in Volume 23, with probably a lot more in-depth going into in 24 and possibly 25, depending on how they decide to go with this route. Now, as that's the state, that leads me to believe that Nana Shimura's quirk is actually a healing quirk, which, if she wants to, she can heal someone's injuries, or, more importantly, to actually make it so that it doesn't feel as dangerous as Eri using her quirk on Mirio. Deku will be able to gain this ability and be able to give Mirio back his quirk, and it restores the quirks. It restores something. It heals them to make them who they are meant to be, giving them back their quirk, or in the case of you literally lost an arm, i.e. frickin' overhaul, there's your arm back. I don't think that's actually going to go to that extent, but it's definitely a possibility that I would like to see if they actually go with it. But I would also like to say that it is possible that that's not the case, and we'll just have to see exactly what happens. The simple fact of the matter is that the only 2 people who could have possibly known Nana that are still alive is obviously All for One, Gran Torino, and Recovery Girl. And I'm pretty sure that those are the only characters that are still alive that know who Nana is. And that's it, okay? Straight, simple, straight to the point. That's the case, okay? There are probably a few other people, but not to the same extent as those 2 could. And Deku is actually going to have to learn from them. But there's actually something that I want to actually bring an idea towards. Now, that takes care of 2 out of the 6 quirks that Deku has within him. But what could the remaining ones be? well, I think I might be able to at least get the ball rolling in a certain extent. I believe that the remaining quirks are actually something to do with each of the heroes that we get to see in the very first episode of the anime and the very first volume of the manga. Now, obviously, that is an insane statement to make. Saying that all of the four remaining quirks are going to be connected, that's insane, especially since there's not actually that many heroes. Believe it or not, there's only really two. And while I would love for those two quirks to actually be implemented, the two aren't really very effective. There are a few other things that could be hidden within there, and honestly, I really want to relook back at Volume 1 just to be certain on this, but the first two people that Deku sees in this episode are three people. There are a few people that he specifically meets. Four heroes that have shown up multiple times since the beginning. These are Kamui Woods, Mount Lady, the strong guy, who I always forget know what his name is, but that's not really the point. And then, of course, the water guy. And I believe that, I don't know what his name is either. But the point is that those are the characters. Now, what would cause me to think that these four characters would be the guide to these remaining quirks? Well, it is because of Kamui Woods. Kamui Woods' first quirk, the quirk that we see, is the first quirk that we actually see in the series. With, yes, there's a little bit more, but the primary thing is his capture ability, basically being able to send out the wood to basically make a cage. That is the first quirk we see in this entire show. And then, down the line, Volume 23 comes along, and the first quirk that Deku receives is the exact same one. With a few differences, but it's still there. The next quirk is that we should at least think about is the strength-based quirk, which is another quirk that is actually in All for One. This is the quirk that the guy with the construction arms has. That is his quirk. He is super strong. And like previously stated, that is the same quirk that we see play out. Which means that the only two remaining quirks are Mount Lady's quirk, which is gigantification, and one other quirk, water-based, water control. The exact details aren't completely obvious, but it is something that to at least be thinking about. But there's actually something else that is important here. Let's return to Volume 21 and look at the picture of all of the quirk users, if I'm remembering correctly. So this is a picture of all of the quirk users. Now, I want you to look carefully at this guy. He has a thunderbolt going down his face, a scar, which is an interesting thing to actually think about. Who is this guy? Why does he have a scar like that? Something tells me that his quirk could be electricity-based, which honestly would be amazing. I'm going to take a pretty quick leap in assumption and say that this guy's quirk is the water-based quirk, and Nana Shimura's master, aka this guy, his quirk is not gigantification, but rather the opposite. Being able to shrink down to a minuscule size. Honestly, I would love to see this, but I don't necessarily think that that is going to be the case. The main reason that I think this, though, that it could be the case at all, is because of the fact that he's kind of hidden. Like, even compared to the rest, he's kind of that one guy that just doesn't stand out. And because of the fact that he doesn't stand out, he stands out even more. Why this one character is the only one that's well hidden and stuff like that could disappear into a crowd of people. Perhaps it would be something to do with being able to shrink or to grow in size. Someone who wants to be invisible basically is. It's definitely a good possibility, and I hope that I might be right. And obviously, there's another person in there, and I don't really know who that is, but I kind of think that it could actually be Bakugo's, like, great-great-grandfather or something. I would love to see if that's actually the case. That Bakugo's family actually used to have someone who was a user of the quirk, and it would be hilarious if that quirk basically means that Deku gets to blast stuff like Bakugo. It would be funny. It would be funny as heck. But I can't really pinpoint that one. But it is actually something to actually think about. Because of the fact that the only other person that really we get to see their quirk in true fashion is Bakugo. He is really the only other person besides the heroes and the villains in the first villain that we actually get to see their quirks, like in full display. So it wouldn't surprise me if that was actually the case. And the simple fact of the matter is that would mean that basically 5 out of the 7 quirks within One for All are actually seen within the first episode and the very first volume, the first chapter of the manga. It's a great way to have, to an extent, it would be Chekhov's gun. And honestly, I think a lot of fans would be insanely impressed. Having Nana Shimura and that other guy be the only ones that are different would make tons of sense because we've seen Nana Shimura's quirk to an extent be shown throughout the entire show through Shigaraki. But we'll just have to wait and see exactly what they decide to do with all of this information. Will volume 21, 22, and 23 be some of the greatest volumes in all history? I think so. And volume 24 and 25, I think that's going to be the point where we start to see these quirks really come out to play. But anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts on this entire process. And if you have any theories of your own for My Hero Academia or Miraculous, then definitely leave them down in the comments. Of course, if it is a theory, please make sure to put #theory_review so that it can show up in my theory review video that's going to be happening kind of soon, but I'm not exactly certain when. But anyways, guys, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. I have been Electro Ninja, and I will see you guys in the next video. But on!